the allegations, why were you still in a business relationship with Destiny? Erudite, Pisco, Dan. There were, a few months ago, sex tapes of Destiny that were released. Unfortunately, I stumbled upon one of those on my X Live feed, which is a whole other conversation of things that just pop up on your feed as you're scrolling like in public. So anyways, I heard rumors that there were these sex tapes of Destiny that were leaked, and one of them involved a homosexual act that Destiny was performing on another person. He was filleting a man, and apparently there was video of it. And I read this and was just like, whatever, I didn't care. To me, it sounded just like BS. And then sure enough, 5 minutes later, as I'm scrolling, bam, there it is on my feed. So I saw about a second and a half of that. Great. And so because I debated Destiny, because there was a little bit of drama in my community with Destiny, because Destiny does have a bigger community, and his community was shitting on me for the last time I debated Destiny, claiming that I overly use AI and stuff. It doesn't matter. It's not really germane to this story. But a lot of people in my community were like, oh, now's your chance to get back at Destiny. What do you think about this? Regardless of what I feel as a Christian about homosexuality or promiscuity, open relationships, I had no desire whatsoever to mock Destiny for that act, and I did not. In fact, my take, maybe you would consider this quite a milquetoast take, was I feel terrible for him because someone leaked intimate videos of his, and that sucks. And I'll stand by that Destiny is still a victim of that. Unless, which I see no evidence of, Destiny instructed someone to make these videos public. He is still a victim of that. He is. And I don't care what you think of Destiny, of his smugness, of cruel things that he said in the past. Imagine yourself for a situation performing sex acts and then they're made public online to where your children could see them, your parents could see them, brothers, sisters, neighbors. That can't be fun. I assume there's a particular type of person that maybe has a fetish to that, but other than that, I feel terrible. I do. Now, you shouldn't, it's probably not good practice to be filming yourself, particularly with multiple partners. I have a theory that any direct message that you make or anything you do in front of camera or audio will probably eventually be made public. And so you should be careful. But that doesn't mean that I don't feel bad for him in that particular situation. I did. And so I stood by that. That was the only commentary I had on it. Now, I proceeded to go after Destiny for other things since those videos came out, such as his terrible comments on the assassination attempt of Trump. But I did not. And anyone can check me on this. I didn't say, haha, Destiny was blowing a dude, haha. I didn't do any of that. I said, I feel bad. Unfortunately, I didn't want to dig any further into the story. I thought that the people that did the leaking, hopefully they would be held accountable, and that was it for the story as far as I was concerned. But if you start to think about this story a little, questions start to arise. Such as, did everybody that was involved in these tapes, the partners of Destiny, know they were being filmed? Now, in some cases, you'd be like, well, of course, if you're holding a phone, if it's from that perspective of someone holding a phone, they probably knew that there was film. But not always, and I didn't look at the rest of the videos. So I had no idea what like the camera perspective was. Was it a camera hidden in the room? And how did this get released? Was it a hack? And there were allegations. I have no connections to anyone where I would be DMing anyone or anything of that nature about what was going on. But there was scuttlebutt that people were saying, listen, the allegation is Destiny ended up sending these videos to a third party, and that third party was then hacked, which would mean Destiny released intimate videos with other partners to a third party, and there's a significant question as to whether or not those people, the partners, gave consent. Now, people brought this up, and I said, I don't know anything about it, so I didn't talk about it. But yes, two things can be true simultaneously. Destiny can be a victim of these leaks, but he could also be culpable for helping make other people victims who were involved in these leaks. And now it appears that that's exactly what seems to be being indicated by not just the partners that are victims, but it seems that Destiny and some of his associates are admitting that that's exactly what happened. And so there is a person named Pixie who was apparently a friend of Destiny's and had some sort of sexual act with Destiny. I don't know what the specific act is. And it seems that she consented to that being filmed. But she's one of the people whose images, and not just photos, not just nude photos, but videos of performing sex acts with Destiny was broadcast publicly for the internet to see. And it's one thing to be a public persona who's very gregarious and jumping into all sorts of controversy like Destiny. It doesn't mean that he's not a victim. But to be someone who's maybe not as quick to jump into that, who's a young woman, and now all of a sudden your family gets to see you performing sex acts, and your friends and your neighbors and your colleagues, that would be pretty terrible. What occurred was, and again, this is from DMs, and I've seen videos that have put out DMs. The first person that I think put out a video was a person by the name of President Sunday, and then Beckett. These two put out these videos where they released a bunch of DMs showing this. And basically what occurred, without getting into hyper detail, but what we now know has all but been confirmed, is that Pixie reached out to people surrounding Destiny, including someone by the name of Straighteraid. I don't know what Straighteraid's real name is, but we'll just go with that for now. And then a woman by the name of Kyla, who goes by the name Not So Erudite. I've talked to Erudite before. I haven't had an unpleasant experience with her necessarily, so I don't know much about her. They were made aware of the fact that Pixie was claiming to be suicidal over this and wanted Destiny held accountable. Eventually, Pixie directly talked to Destiny. These DMs have been released by Destiny. She basically claims that she wants Destiny punished significantly, not necessarily through a criminal procedure, but through a civil procedure. And she wants him to pay an amount of money that would make him uncomfortable the rest of his life to think about nudes. In the context of that, Erudite was a middleman who was sort of offering advice, will be charitable, on how to not make this public, and Destiny's willingness to have some sort of compensation to help Pixie out. Inevitably, Destiny, the videos come out, Destiny releases a statement on his Reddit. That statement doesn't have a lot of contrition. It basically acknowledges the fact that he's a victim. It says that he doesn't want to focus on this right now because there's litigation that's been threatened. That I understand. That he doesn't want to cover drama anymore. That sounds like a BS excuse. It seems like oftentimes people that quite frequently cover other people's drama, when it comes to their own drama, will say, I don't want to talk about drama anymore. It's understandable. He says that he was troubled by the fact that she said that he just wants to punish her. The statement, you could go to Destiny's Reddit. I think it's pinned on his Reddit page. I'm not impressed by this statement. Of course, there's a limited amount of what he can say if litigation is being threatened. I'm assuming he talked to a lawyer who said, look, you don't want to admit guilt. But if Destiny was hacked, per se, and it wasn't his fault that these got leaked to a third party, he would have clearly said that. And he didn't. And it was obvious from other DMs that the most likely scenario was that he had, in fact, given these videos without Pixie's consent to a third party. Erudite is all but confirmed that is true. That's what occurred. Now we get to the colleagues. Now, there are people like, and I'm not going to know all of the ins and outs of business relationships and things like this, but this was where I saw that there was a lack of people really looking into what was going on. If I was in a business relationship with Destiny, like we did one show a week together in person, and you have to understand, that's different than if I, like, let's take someone that I might stream with. Like, I hate to bring up someone's name in a stream like this, but let's say my friend Aircraft Sparky, who's a smaller right-wing streamer like me. If me and Aircraft Sparky decided we were going to do a show together once a week, we don't live in the same area, so it would be digital. That's hardly a business relationship. But if we had tens of thousands of people watching and huge sums of money were being donated for that show, so much so that we were in person in a studio doing the show, and we were getting significant guests like Democrat politicians that were vying to be the head of the DNC, former Democratic candidates for president, etc., then you can start to see how that's a more significant business arrangement. And there are people in those sorts of arrangements with Destiny. Those would be people like Not So Erudite, who does the Bridges show. Those would be people like Pisco, that does a show with Destiny. There's a gentleman by the name of Dan that does one of these shows with Destiny. And then there are probably other people that I don't know their specifics. That to me is different than someone who's maybe just an orbiter. So someone who frequently appears on Destiny's show. To me, the obligation to speak up on these allegations increases the closer to the situation you become. So, one of the people I was listening to is a person I've interacted with before named J-Stock. I don't have any acrimonious relationship with J-Stock. I wouldn't say we were friends or anything like that. We've talked several times. That's about the gist of it. J-Stock happens to do a show occasionally with Cherry. Cherry is one of the people that's now accusing Destiny, and J-Stock is backing Cherry, and he wants nothing to do with Destiny at this point. From listening to him and Nicholas Denorio, who's another person that's interacted with Destiny, and Turkey Tom, who's a person that's interacted with Destiny, it appears that people that were in closer relationships with Destiny, including potentially business associates and just orbiters that were close to him, knew of these allegations for a while now. So the leaks were 2 months and change ago, but there were people that knew that Pixie was saying, I'm having a really hard time, and they basically believed the accusation. However, Pixie didn't want people to go public. One of the weird side stories to this that's kind of tragic is apparently, I don't know if this is true, but apparently another Destiny orbiter who I've talked to named Lonerbox is now dating Pixie. So imagine if you're Lonerbox and you consider yourself to be friends with Destiny, and all of a sudden you find out that your girlfriend's sex tape with your friend Destiny is now publicly available online. And one of the reasons for that is Destiny gave that video to another woman without her consent. I could see being mightily pissed. Lonerbox was also feuding with other people online from the song community, whatever, and announced recently that he is taking time off of streaming. I would heavily bet that this situation involving his girlfriend, probably a big reason why. Anonymous Coward says, one theory NSC is, for $5, thanks, NSC is sweeping Not So Erudite. Immigration status is tied to our podcast with the Destiny succeeding. Destiny's depravity metaphorically screwed her. We'll talk about Erudite. You had these people that heard and believed that this is going on with Pixie, but they didn't come public. And this is what President Sunday, who puts this video out that sort of starts all this is what he's accusing people like Nicholas Denorio of and others. They didn't come public. They're cowards. And Nicholas's argument from the video I watched, this is how much free time I had today. I was just listening to this stuff in the background. Nicholas's argument was like, but I couldn't come public until the victim wanted to go public. And I think he's right. And the reason he gives, you might say, well, that's because he was covering up or whatever. Maybe, but the reason he gives, I would share his belief, which is, but what happens if you go public and you say all of this, and then, let's say, hypothetically, he's like, I'm not going to name the person, but this occurred. And then Pixie settles with Destiny for money. And then she comes out and says, that's all bullshit. It was consensual. Now the person who broke the story without the victim wanting to come forward's like, looks like a total a-hole. Like he just smeared this innocent guy. So yeah, if the victim doesn't want to come forward, even if you believe them, I understand. It's their story to break. And if they don't want to break the story, I understand that. So I don't blame any of the colleagues or the associates or the orbiters for not coming public with this if it's true that Pixie was telling people, don't go forward with this. I can't be more clear on that. And that's Erudite, that's Dan, that's Nicholas Dorio, Turkey Tom, whoever. Why would they take the risk of going public? Now, maybe you say, well, maybe they call police or they call a lawyer on Pixie's behalf. And maybe there's an argument to be had there. To me, that's not a huge issue. But I would not go public. If someone came to me and told me something in confidence that was terrible, but said, please, please, please don't talk about this publicly, I probably wouldn't. If it rose to the level of what I thought was grotesque criminality, I'd probably call law enforcement. but that would be it. So I'm not casting stones at any of that. My question is, to those who were aware of Pixie's allegations and believed her, and that's important, and many of them are saying, or at least many people I've seen publicly are like, well, I was aware of this and I knew it was true. Why did you continue to do partnerships and collaborations with Destiny? If you've known about this for a month and a half, but you continue to be involved in a business relationship with Destiny or routinely stream with him, and you believed these allegations, why? That's the question that intrigued me. And the reason it intrigued me is because with all of this drama, the truth of the matter is, Destiny's blacklisted me. I have zero connection to him. I've never met Pixie. Now that Cherry's came forward, I know Cherry a little. But I've actually interacted with, and I assume would be welcome to talk, and enjoyed my time talking with many of these other people. Pisco, Erudite, J-Stock's not in a business relationship, but you see what I'm meaning. Lonerbox. And that's what intrigued me. You have this big community. You have Destiny and all of his fans, and then you have the people in business relationships with him, and then you have Orbiter people that are around. And for better or worse, I don't give a shit how much you dislike Destiny. The truth is, much of the online debate thing is centered around Destiny. In fact, Destiny has broken through to taking that online type debate that people like me have been doing for years and broke through to the mainstream. Doing shows like Piers Morgan, talking to people like Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson. So it's of interest to me, and I've always suspected, and I talked about this publicly, when I thought Destiny was spiraling, he was having problems, looked like an impending divorce, I believe, around this time. Then the assassination attempt of Trump. He really hates Trump. Trump comes out looking like a boss, raising his fist saying, fight. Destiny spiraling. He's making fun of the firefighter that died. All of that's bad enough. The thing that he said that I thought was borderline inexcusable was when his friend and co-host Pisco asked him, Destiny, did you want that bullet to kill Trump? And Destiny's response was, I don't know if I could say because of terms of service. Well, what I will say is the worst thing that could have happened was the assassin missing. That to me is borderline. Now, I'm not saying I was going to go on a crusade to say YouTube kicked this guy off, but I didn't want to deal with him anymore. Now, if he was just saying that because he was spiraling and it was just said in the heat of the moment, that's one thing. And I tried to give Destiny the benefit of the doubt. And I reached out to people in Destiny's orbit and said, hey, listen, you might want to calm your man down because he might say some shit that ends his career, or he might inspire someone to do something really shitty. But one of the things I question is, how many of the people that are Destiny's friends that he surrounded himself with are actually his friends? Or how many are there because it helps their channel? It helps them financially. I don't know. I remember when Destiny got kicked off of Twitch, there were an awful lot of people on Twitch that were left-wingers that were like associates of Destiny or agreed with Destiny that were like, oh boy, I can't wait to get those Destiny's viewers, which I thought was pretty scummy. If that's your friend. And I'm sure there are people salivating right now. Ooh, maybe a lot of Destiny's audience will come my way now. But are those people really your friends? Or are they just pretending to be your friend because they're getting something out of the relationship? And as soon as you become a hindrance to them, all of a sudden, by the way, that's normal of people in life anyways. I've known people like that. You know, I've known the person that gets the big settlement and all of a sudden they're overflowed with cash and they get all these friends. Then once the cash dries up and they're not buying drinks at the bar anymore, where'd those friends go? That's a question I had around the Trump assassination stuff. So now that question seems relevant today. If you believe the allegations, why were you still in a business relationship with Destiny? Erudite, Pisco, Dan, anyone else that's in an official business relationship? Anyone that might not be an official business relationship, but believe the allegations and continued to buddy up with Destiny and talk to him friendly and do shows with him? Why hasn't anyone asked that question? Now, let me give you some potential answers, because Erudite's answer. Erudite put out a statement here earlier today, and it basically said, and we'll get to Erudite's statement specifically, but she basically says the reason that I've continued through this business relationship with Destiny up till this point was because I believed he was apologetic and remorseful and wanted to make amends. You may not like that answer, but it's an answer. Perhaps their answer, and suspiciously, many people haven't spoken up. Now, maybe they didn't speak up because they're waiting to see what the legal proceedings are. Maybe they didn't speak up because they're witnesses. Or in the case of Pisco, maybe he's counsel for Destiny, and so he can't speak on the matter. Could be. But it seems the closer you are to Destiny, right up into Destiny, you're at this point obligated to make a statement, or more obligated the closer you are. Clearly, Destiny's made a statement. But if you do a show with Destiny on the regular and you're involved in a business relationship, seems like you would speak up unless there's something preventing you. The only person, Dan said a couple words. I've seen Pisco. I've seen people like Nick Denorio, Turkey Tom. I've seen Jay Stuck come out. Counterpoint said he's not really in that much of a relationship. He said some, whatever. But there's a lot of people that didn't really say much. The further argue away, the less important it is, I think. But just making the point. My particular question is, let me re-ask it, and I'll tell you why it's important. If you are an associate of his, business associate or a close associate, who was aware of the allegations and believed them and continued to work with Destiny, but now that the allegations are out in the public sphere, you're saying that you're going to take time away or you're not willing to work with Destiny. Why have you changed? Because to me, it seems that the most likely answer is because it's affecting your reputation. In other words, you would have been more than happy to continue your relationship with Destiny as long as it benefited you. And if that meant that this stayed private and was never made public, oh boy, you would have just continued to pace. But now that it's been made public, you're going to claim for moral reasons, I'm stepping aside. And that reeks of it not being for moral reasons, but maneuvering to protect your own ass. That's what it looks like. Now, if your argument was, before it became public, I stood by Destiny, and I'm going to stand by him now, because I believe he's sorry. So let's say that your argument is, I think he's very sorry and it won't happen again. Okay, you're standing by him now, and you were then. Again, you may hate that answer, but do you understand the difference? What I'm questioning is the people that were standing by him when it wasn't public, even though they believed the allegations, but now that it's been made public, oh, never mind. Now, because it seems like it's not what he did that's repulsed you. It's the fact that there's public outcry. And that's not morality. If you're staying with him in both scenarios, okay, then you could say, at least in this specific example, it wasn't just self-serving as to why you changed your position. Or maybe your answer is, yeah, I think it's real shitty, but I don't think it rises to the level of me not associating with him. Okay. But my specific question is for those who did not distance themselves, who went, yucked it up and continued business relationships, and are now like, oh, I got to think about this. Because the only thing that seemingly has changed, if you believe, now if you say, but I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it. I thought Pixie wasn't telling the truth. Or you might say, I didn't hear about this shit. Which, of course, who could fault you then? But if you heard it and believed it, and you talked to other people and said, yeah, that's bad. And you have people like Straighter Aid and Erudite that are go-betweens between Destiny and Pixie, who are saying that they believed the allegations were true, and basically Destiny was all but confirming it to them. Why would you continue to defend Destiny and act like nothing was going wrong publicly, but then once the story breaks publicly, you're like, ooh, now I'm going to take some time. I'm going to distance myself. That's the question I have. And if you haven't made a statement, maybe you're smart, because you'll be able to clear up why there's a discrepancy there.